India and self-reliance, Aatma Nirbharta. This topic has become a highlighted topic of discussion, especially in the light of recent geopolitical developments. What is the current situation of India in terms of becoming Atmanirbhar, self-reliant in terms of technology, in terms of defense, in terms of its critical requirements and resources? What are the ways in which India can pave the way towards becoming self reliant, and not only self reliant, but an exporter in technology, in defense, in other critical requirements of the world? What is the way towards becoming more integrated as a sovereignty in terms of defense technology, in terms of security, in terms of geostrategic positioning, and in terms of the long term growth of India as a nation? To discuss all this, today we have none other than Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar. Dr. Rajan Kochar is an advisor to the UPSC, the organization which brings out the Indian Administrative Service officers. He is a TEDx speaker, and above all, for years together, he has served the Indian Army and still continues to serve the nation at different capacities. He is a regular visitor to television shows, and today I'm fortunate enough to bring his point of view about India's Atmanirbharta and defense and technology, and how that can impact the future sovereign integrity, geostrategy, and growth of India as a nation. Namaskar, hello, and welcome, friends, to Joy, Clarity, and Success podcast. My name is Shushmit Aditya Mukherjee. I'm in the profession of finance and into AI engineering. I provide solutions for my clients and I teach students to become professionally capable. Before embarking on my own endeavors, I have served multiple corporates from a position of a trainee to a marketing head. Without further ado, let's get started. Namaskar, sir. How are you?
Thank you, dear. How are you? And it's nice to see that you are into this realm of geopolitics and trying to make things simpler for research scholars to understand.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, the objective of this very small channel right now is to inspire the youth of the country, and in ways from people who educate us and inspire us. And obviously, Army comes right at the forefront. And I'm so fortunate today that you have accepted the invitation and we are conversing. So, sir, we were like before beginning the discussion, we were already having a conversation regarding Atmanirbharta, and this is the central topic right now. We are seeing in the geopolitical perspective that because of a certain, you can say, a distance from being absolutely Atmanirbhar, India is facing certain problems in negotiations at the geopolitical arena. We are having to go to certain countries for certain, for certain requirements, and then they are arm twisting us based on their preferences, their scenarios. So, where do you think, sir, we are here right now in terms of Atmanirbharta in defense? And what is the roadmap, like next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What is the resolution that we are planning? Because I think we do not have any other way than to become absolutely self-reliant in terms of technology in defense.
See, so Smith, the thing is that when we talk about Atmanirbharta, it's a continuous process. It cannot stop at one place. It cannot stagnate. It has to progress. As you rightly said, that what is happening around the world, and we have recent examples of the Russia-Ukraine war, and which has lasted almost 4 years. And we find why the Russians could sustain this war for such a long time was because of a defense ecosystem within their own country, which possibly right now India doesn't have. You see, you have to understand that your economic potential flows from your manufacturing capabilities. Today, your manufacturing sector is very weak, and it contributes 15% to the GDP of the country. So when you have a manufacturing sector very weak, where you have youths like you not wanting to join a production and these kind of manufacturing activities, and they prefer jobs in air conditioned environments like IT and the services sector, then you will see this void coming up, because we need to have people, and we need to have the young, intelligent people joining the manufacturing sector. And that is one void which I think would need to be fulfilled if we want to talk about Nirbhar. Otherwise, it will remain a slogan. You see, I have been hearing about this Atmanirbhar Bharat in the last about 1 decade, but I haven't seen a very great movement. A movement is taking place. I'm not saying that it's not taking place, but it isn't taking place at the pace we want it to take place. That is point number one. Point number two is that whenever you want to develop niche systems, wherever you want to develop state of the art weaponry and processes, you need to have technology. So today we have seen in Operation Sindoor how technology is driving the battlefield, and therefore to get homegrown technology, you have to have a focus on research and development. Now, if you have a look at the budget, which was presented for this financial year, the budget is only earmarking 0.6% of the total GDP to research and development. That will not do. You see, America has an R&D budget of almost 3 to 4%, but you have only 0.6%. So, if you want to have technology within the country, like I'll give you examples. So far, we have not been able to manufacture our own aircraft. Today, you and me are aware that where our Air Force is fighting to maintain its operational edge over Pakistan. I'm not comparing China at all, because we don't stand anywhere near China as of now. So there is no point comparing ourselves with China as of now. We can compare ourselves favorably with Pakistan, but this gap is becoming closer. A gap in terms of technology, because Pakistan is being supported by China, is being supported by Turkey, are two countries who are quite advanced in technology. We don't have such dedicated partner except for Israel. And now, US, we could consider maybe 6 months back as a great friend, but now I'm having a question mark on that after President Trump has taken charge. So, in times to come, I don't think we can depend upon the United States. So, what is the essence of this entire story? What is the essence of this entire analysis? The sense of this entire analysis is that you have to develop your own technology. And for that, the areas of focus are your cyber, your space, your ethical artificial intelligence, defense startups is one aspect which I feel has a great potential in the country today. You have more than 1,000 startups in defense itself, and I feel more focus and more energy can be can be imparted to these startups if we have to give a push to the defense ecosystem in the country. So we have termed 2025 as the year of defense reforms. So, do we see any reforms taking place in this year? We are almost into September. We are only seeing some processes are being reformed, like there is a talk of a revision of the defense acquisition procedure 2020. A defense procurement manual has recently been launched in 2025. So we would need to study. See, this defense acquisition procedure is running into 800 to 1,000 pages. Okay, so you have 1,000 pages of the defense acquisition procedure 2020. It's too voluminous for anybody to understand. You have to make it crisp and concise. For example, I will tell you, if you want to earn a PhD in our country, you have to write, or your PhD has to be of a minimum 400 pages, because that is what is told to us. I also did my PhD. You go abroad, you find PhDs in only 100 pages, because the crux of the PhD is in the recommendations, is in the final analysis, is in the hypothesis. So review of literature and all these aspects have no meaning there. So we have to understand the basics. United States has a defense acquisition university, and it is from this university technology flows. You see, unfortunately, we have every department wants a university of its own. We have a police university. CRPF is also wanting its own. BSF is wanting its own. But that is not the answer to the problem. You must give research and development the impetus. And my last point here is the private sector has to be greatly involved in the process. We are too much dependent on our public sector today. You see, your public sector has not delivered. Your DRDO is a white elephant organization spending crores of the taxpayers' money without giving out any worthwhile technology to you. So you must now get into this act and get the private sector. A beginning has been made, and I believe this 75% of the capital budget now has to be spent on the domestic uh, industries. Out of this 75% of this allocation, which is close to around 1.12 lakh crores, 25% has been earmarked for the private sector. So you can conveniently actually say around uh, 30 to 35,000 crores is actually given to the private sector, which I think is not sufficient. So they are, in my summing up statement, I would like to make is have a look at the macro issues, have a look at the micro issues. Both are important and need to be meshed together to formulate a strategy for the next 10 years where Atmanirbhar Bharat no longer remains a dream.
Yes, I totally, completely agree with you. I was listening to one hedge fund investor, Mr. Ray Dalio. So he is one of the largest hedge fund investors, and he has written a book called Principles, where he describes this, what caused these changes of power, who became the power globally at different phases of the history, and what was the reason. And he spoke about five levers, and one of them was technology. And he said that power which actually uh, captured this technology part ruled the next phase of the history. So I think the same happened with the British East India Company or the British Empire. They got into revolution, and they basically manufactured gunpowder in high tech format, which helped them to colonize the entire world. It's so accurate. And right now we are having this quantum technologies, AI technologies, in which if we do not work, I think the future can be precarious
taking into account what USA and China and all these countries are doing. So, sir, we have also heard a few good news like developments in the private sector, in the industrial complex, and also developments in the missile technology, the aircrafts. Uh, where we are right now in terms of the progress.
You see, our most promising breakthrough. I will start with that. That where we have made progress, and it's work in progress. One is the LCA project, a light combat aircraft. Tejas series Mark One Alpha, and Mark Two. Uh, we are now, yesterday only, 97 Tejas have been ordered on HAL, and earlier it was 83. So now 180 aircrafts are going to be manufactured by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Money and the budget has been earmarked for that. So I think that is one promise which holds that in times to come, our indigenous content, I think, may go up to almost 80%. So that is one area I feel. Second is the missile technology. It's been, I mean, a great success story for us, and especially when we see the Agni and the Akash missiles coming up and performing, very well. The Agni 5 is now in excess of 5,000 kilometers range, and it is an intercontinental ballistic missile, and also nuclear warheads can be launched from this missile. So I think that is a success story. And also the Astra, beyond a visual range, A to A missile, and Pralay, which is a ballistic missile. Bramhos, another success story as we saw it in Sindoor. It's a cruise missile, and one of the fastest in the world, with a speed of 2.8 Mach. And these are some of the success stories I feel. Uh, the next, I think, a success story I see it coming is in the Indian Navy, and especially the shipbuilding, the Mazagon docks, the Cochin shipyard, Kochi shipyard, Goa shipyard. So all these, where warships are coming up, submarines projects are coming up. Our a nuclear submarine project is also coming up, and we see for the first time a propulsion system design also being developed, because we didn't have this technology with us earlier. Then, in the field of electronics, a great progress has been made. Uh, Engineers, AESA radars are coming up now. The Uttam radar is an example, and Akash Tir, the air defense system which you heard of in Sindoor. That is also one of those command and control and integrated systems, which is going to be integrated with the Indian Air Force command and control air defense system. And these are, uh, in brief, I'm just telling you because this topic is hell of a long one. But this, in brief, is the success story as far as the public and the private sector is concerned. Because basically, all these things are being developed by the public sector, but at the same time, the private sector is also playing an important role. And last but not the least, the space sector. You see, the space sector is now coming up in a big way. The other day, I was with the chairman of ISRO, and what we were discussing is a satellite similar to Baidu, which China has. So I'm given to understand that we'll have a constellation of almost 58 satellites in orbit by 2029. That will cover this entire gamut of this war with Pakistan, the coverage 24/7, 360 degrees, which we didn't have in Operation Sindoor. So these are the things, and I'm very, very glad to see the level of private sector participation among the notable players I would like to mention on your program is the Larsen and Toubro, your L&T group, which is involved in shipbuilding, in the naval system, in the missiles and the weapons. Then we have Tata Advanced Systems, and especially in the aerospace and the avionics. Then we have the Adani defense and aerospace, especially in the field of small arms ammunition. Let me tell you this: small arms and the medium caliber ammunition is being manufactured in a very, very fast pace, in great quantity and quality. And when we talk about the surge capacity, you see, if you have to fight a war like Russia, Ukraine war, you need to have a surge capacity. If your war gets prolonged beyond 60 days, then we don't have those kind of reserves available. So we'll have to depend upon the private sector for the surge capacity. Then we have the solar defense and aerospace system, especially in the field of explosives and propellants. Then we have the Paras defense and space, which is venturing into the electronics, and we have the triple S defense, which is again into sniper rifle and small arms, and finally the MKU Limited, which is in Kanpur, uh, where the body armor and the protection, like the bulletproof jackets, are being manufactured. So you see, when I was in service 37 years, I never heard of all this. So I retired in 2018, so which is not very far off from today. It's only about 7 years. But what progress I have seen in this 7 years has been tremendous, as I have named all these things. And my last summing up is, in Operations Sindoor, I would like to commend the role of the private sector, especially with regard to drones, with regard to loitering ammunition. Loitering ammunition is going to be the future of your next war. So we saw the Alpha design technology from Bangalore contributing a lot. We saw the Sky Striker loitering ammunition being utilized by the Indian Armed Forces.
So, if you could
Though,
explain for the viewers what is a loitering ammunition?
you see, loitering ammunition is an ammunition which it's launched in the form of a drone. Uh, the drone has a warhead which is of a loitering ammunition. That warhead is only released once a target is sensed. It is not, it won't strike as soon as you launch the drone, it will not strike the target, but the drone will carry out surveillance and reconnaissance. And the moment it acquires the target, it launches the warhead. So that is why the name loitering. It keeps on loitering in the space, searching for the target, and the moment the target is identified, as it has been fed into its program and the algorithms of the system, it will hit the target with loitering ammunition with the pinpoint accuracy. So that is what loitering. Then we have the Idea Forge. Switch UAVs were launched for the first time, and these Switch UAVs are very important with the Americans. We were actually buying from them. We had the Netra V2 also, surveillance and reconnaissance UAV. Then we have the Nagastra. Nagastra was is a suicide drone. It is a kamikaze type of a drone, which has been manufactured by our solar defense system. It also uses loitering ammunition, and we have the Special Blast Limited in Nagpur, another firm which is working on ammunition manufacture. So now you see, Uh, the dependency on ammunition, I would like to state on your program, it used to be almost 80% we used to import. That used to be the dependency on ammunition. Today, this dependency has come down to 30 to 40% only. So that, as I would actually say, a very, very remarkable achievement. And I would sum up to say that, see, the ammunition will make you win a war. And if you have to fight a long war, you need to have the surge capacity. The public sector cannot give you the surge capacity, let me tell you. We have the corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board. We have about 10 to 12 factories in ordnance factories which are manufacturing ammunition. They are not able to sustain us because 80% of our army's requirement was earlier being met by them. The ammunition was defective. You lately heard about the Sherong gun, 141, the army has rejected you as being faulty in terms of metallurgy. So these are the issues, and in private sector, what we see is they have imported the latest machinery. They have imported the latest systems. They have the best of chemical engineers. They are the best of metallurgy experts with them. So they are investing into a system for the defense forces on our part or on the part of the government. I think we also need to invest in them and give them sustained orders over a period of time, because in case we don't give them these sustained orders, uh, they'll not last. They'll close down. And the last point here being that China, let me take China as a model and put it in front of you. A civil military fusion, which is required to happen in our country, is not happening. This is what China achieved because the Chinese industry has been designed in a way that it meets the civil as well as the military requirements at the same time. So, unless you have this fusion of the civil and military in terms of your industry, you will not be able to sustain a kind of a war which is going to be fought in the next decade. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you so much. We were hearing about this narrative that there was once a point of view that if we build roads in Arunachal, it will risk that the Chinese army will come in. Then we had this. I think there was also a narrative that if we like decentralize or allow the private sector to get into mining, to get into defense, there will be increased levels of crony capitalism and corruption and all that. Now, that had held us back in terms of scaling a lot. Do you think like it was a strategic ploy and or nobody volunteered to participate in this? And are the current schemes like Make in India helping in enhancing these parts, like filling up these gaps?
Uh, You see, it's a lack of strategic thought, I would say that. You have to have leaders in the country who have a strategic thought, who understand what the requirements of the nation is, who understand what your adversary is doing, who understand how to gear up this race with the adversaries in terms of economic power, in terms of military power, in terms of diplomatic power, in terms of technology. So, uh, uh, when you mention these line of actual control areas where the border infrastructure was not being developed, with a faulty thinking that अगर हम उसको डेवलप करेंगे तो दुश्मन हमारे देश के अंदर और जल्दी से आ जाएगा, which is a very very flawed thought. See, when you mobilize your forces, you need good roads, bridges, airfields, helipads, you underground shelters, bunkers, and all these things, which is going to sustain yourself in the battlefield. Why will you let the enemy come inside? Because if you have a robust logistic and a supply chain network working in your forward areas, you will never allow your adversary to come inside. And secondly, if you remember 1962, the Air Force was not here. We had the Air Force with us. And it's a shame. And if you compare in Operation Sindoor, it was only the Air Force which gave you the dividends because it was a non-contact war. Because army is required for a contact war. Because army has to go inside Pakistan, and we never went inside. So it was the Air Force. Primarily, 90% of the job was done by the Air Force. Army was involved in some areas, some strikes, where the Brahmos regiments took part in that. But apart from that, it was the Air Force. The battle or the war which was won by us, it was because of Air Force. So that blunder was made in 1962, the Himalayan blunder, as we call it. So that is the lack of strategic thought, and this Make in India. I'm trying to emphasize to you. First of all, most important is you have to increase our defense budget. It's only 1.9% of your GDP. Which country can survive on a two-front war? And now we are talking about the third front as Bangladesh, and it's a very, very serious thought. Let me tell you, we can do a different analysis on Bangladesh because it demands a very great analysis on that. So we have a three-front war and a 3.5 front war, as you may call it. And for that, 1.9 में से अगर आप if you remove your pensions and other things, you are only left with hardly 1.6% of the GDP for your budget, and your capital acquisition is hardly anything. You are left with that. So how are you going to modernize? And second important aspect is the people who think that the Indian army has to reduce its size will be the biggest, I will say, what happened in 1962 when this flawed strategic thought was there that we should not improve our own border infrastructure. The same flawed strategic thought I am seeing now when some people talk about right sizing or downsizing the Indian army. Today, from 13 lakhs, the Indian army has come down to 11 lakhs. In times to come, if you have to now man the Bangladesh border, because Bangladesh border earlier was a safe border and we did not actually earmark substantial forces there. But now, according to my assessment, you have to have a 15 lakh army. From 11 lakhs, you have to increase it to 15 lakhs. You see, you have to understand there is a debate, technology versus boots on ground. You see, technology has a place. I'm not those propagators of this thought that you technology के आने से आपको मैन पावर की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. I think it's flawed as far as the defense services is concerned, because these you have 15,000 kilometers of your land border today with 6 countries. Out of this 15,000 square kilometers, 10,000 square kilometers is a contested border. There is no country in this world which has a contested border of 10,000 square kilometers. And when you have a contested border, you have to have physically troops there to stop the people from coming inside. And uh, when you calculate all this into a, a mathematical model, you will understand, and I want some of your researchers to take this as a project. Please calculate the entire border of ours, the contested border of ours, the internal security aspects also, and tell us through a mathematical model that how much forces will be required to safeguard these borders. That is point number one. Point number two is that defense budget, as I mentioned to you, that in case you want technology, homegrown technology here, you have to increase this research and development aspect of the budget from 0.6% to at least 1.5%. Private sector has to be encouraged to get into research and development. Academia, the IITs have to be brought in, though in some measure it is happening, but it is not happening in the measure it is required to happen. And finally, your two gray areas today are your space warfare and your cyber warfare. Though you have a defense cyber agency in place, you have a defense space agency in place, but you have to give them the teeth. And by teeth, I mean you have to give them the funds, because only then they can get you the kind of technology which you need. So, summing up this entire discussion on this Make in India and all these aspects, what we discussed, one is manpower, the other is budget, the third is technology, and the fourth is political will. Because unless there is a political will to give more money to the defense, this will not happen.
So I'll just regarding this topic of self-dependency, also one question which is coming to my mind. I'll just add in here. So I was just doing research on the resource control of the major resources that are required, which are critical resources. For example, oil, rare earth materials, and nuclear materials. So here I saw that in terms of oil, the major resources are being controlled by Russia and USA, and to some extent the Middle East. And this rare earth material, 70% or 60% is being controlled by China. In terms of other, like the nuclear part, we have some majority in terms of thorium reserves and coal reserves. So what I see is Trump started by provoking China, but they basically retorted. What I feel is they retorted with blocking the rare earth materials, which block their main technological pipelines. So they can never actually dominate China with tariffs, because once they put tariffs or once they try to be smart with China, China will block those things. They find India as a soft target because we do not control oil, we do not control rare earth materials, two of the major critical resources we have. So are we like looking at becoming a little more self-reliant? Because I hear things about we doing pact with Myanmar for rare earths, and we have also found out like oil reserves and stuff, although they are only 5 or 6% of what we require. Are we like making parallel arrangements, because these are going to be critical? Somebody can arm twist us anytime. Even we want to develop technologically in terms of semiconductors, we need those resources, and we are we doing something on that front?
Yeah, definitely. And a very good question, because you know what you are actually highlighting is the future. And the future is not in oil, because 80% of our requirement we are importing. And the future is in uh, liquid nitrogen gas, LNG. The future is in hydrogen, and developing alternative sources of energy. So I think we are moving in this direction with Qatar. We have 30 years of a deal on the LNG part. So we'll be actually taking that Qatar in a big measure. But the point is here, actually coming to is self-reliance. See, rare earth material, as you mentioned, is in abundance in Myanmar towards the China border, and you have this uh, the area actually controlled by the Kachin National Army, which is a rebel group in Myanmar. And let me tell you, Myanmar's borders today are controlled by the rebels and not by the military junta. So you can have any amount of understanding contract with the military junta. It's not going to happen because the Kachin National Army is under control of China. There are 300 mines on the or in Myanmar, near the Myanmar China border. The problem uh, actually arising now for China is that this 300 mines which China had complete access to. Now the United States has put its hands into the ring. And in Bangladesh, if you see, if if, if you open a map and if you have a look at Chittagong, where the U.S. Army has landed right now, and you have a look at the uh, Myanmar area where these raw earth materials are there, it's just about 300 to 400 kilometers away. So that is the next big game which is going to be planned, because the future, as we see, as you have rightly said, that unless you have abundance of this raw earth material or rare earth material, you will be dependent upon the other countries. Unfortunately, India has not yet kick-started into this process. There was an Indian team recently which visited Myanmar to explore this option there. Outcome is not known, and I am hopeful that India also will be able to get some share of the rare earth materials from Myanmar. The next actually aspect is of your nuclear aspects, and especially thorium, as you mentioned. We have recently done a partnership with the French and the United States, both for thorium reactors to be installed in India. Because ultimately, thorium is going to be an alternative for your uranium. And especially if you require not to make an atom bomb, but to generate energy. And thorium is going to be a vital source of energy. And I think we are exploring this aspect. We are going into it, and we are going to exploit whatever resources we have. And my last point is, when we talk about rare earth material, there are two types of rare earth material. One is the light rare earth material, other is the heavy rare earth materials. So the light ones are of not much consequence because they are actually available in India also, in some regions of India. What we are looking at is the heavy rare earth materials, which are only found right now. The world's 16% of the heavy rare earth materials are found in Myanmar. So that is the region what we are actually uh, looking for. And the irony is that Myanmar is just next to us, and we have not been able to exploit this all this long. And China's rare earth, because China also has a reserve of rare earth materials, but that reserve is drying up now, and that is why Myanmar actually becomes all the more important. Yeah.
Okay, and sir, we have spoken about the resources part. I just wanted to understand that, like, there are platforms that we spoke about in our pre-discussion, previous to this podcast about dual platforms. So, like Israel and USA, they are working on this, or they are actually having these dual use platforms. So, are India also, like Indian think tank is also building on that premise, the dual use platforms? First, if you could for the users explain what's a dual use platform, and then what India is doing in that front, and what USA and Israel already have.
It's basically dual use means an integration between military, academic, research, startups, and the industry. So, supposing I want to actually set up an industry on, I say, you telecommunication. Is give you example the way Israel did it on telecommunication, optics, and software. So now we are developing the technology for the civil sector, because that is profitable, because there is a market, and a continuous orders will be available, because the market is much more huge than the military sector. But what technology we are developing for the civil, can we also make it usable for the military? A dual purpose of the same technology, can we do it? Because Israel has done it. Uh, they have DARPA like agencies in Israel, where, and especially US, I would say that, where the universities, the private firms, the defense contractors, and the agencies like this, like GPS, and give you examples, artificial intelligence, semiconductors. Now, if you are manufacturing semiconductors, we can very well have semiconductors which can be used for the military purpose also, and for the civil purpose also. So these are a type of things which can be developed. You can have prototypes actually made and experimented upon. Block upgrades can take place, and especially when we talk about miniaturization, because everything is uh, technology is based on miniaturization, advanced node chips, uh, uh, sensors, high power electronics, stealth. Stealth technology, you can be dual use, and I think the army will. And both US and Israel are investing heavily in these technologies. So today, Israel is exporting missiles, UAVs, radars, and entire electronic warfare globally in the large scale, and so much of revenues, actually they're earning out of it. So we need to have this kind of synergy between all these sectors, as I've actually mentioned to you. And I think it is slowly happening in India, but needs a greater push.
And sir, we always thought that India is importer in terms of defense technology. In fact, in terms of technology, we have the perception that India imports more than it exports. But recently, we have seen that India is demonstrating a high level of capability in terms of defense technology and is exporting. The exports have grown, I think, multiple X in last decade. So, how can we actually improve on this and become a significant player in the global defense technology markets?
You see, there are a couple of factors. When we look inwards, what we are actually looking at is, uh, do we have that kind of a skilled workforce available in this country to ensure this technology absorption takes place? You see, most important is technology is there. I'll give you example of Indian Army. Technology, we import the technology. Now, do we have the skills available within our own workforce to absorb this technology? Because that is the greatest challenge. You see, you can buy technology from anywhere, but how are you going to use it in your organization is one of the most important aspects. The second is, how will you integrate your systems? 70% of the Indian army has got legacy systems, and you can't discard them because a weapon platform lasts for 30 to 40 years. If you look at the life cycle of a weapon platform, it will last you for at least 3 to 4 decades. And how are you going to constantly upgrade the system as per the new technology? That is also a very important challenge. The third important and a very important challenge is your procurement cycles. It is taking 5 to 7 years today if you have to acquire a new equipment or a new system into service. By the time, I'll give you example, 7 साल पहले आपके पास कौन सा एप्पल का मॉडल था? You tell me. You had Apple maybe 5 or Apple 4, because every year Apple is coming up with a new model. So if you're going to take 7 years to get a system into your armed forces, you are already late by 7 years of technology, because by the time you actually get that equipment, your specifications are 7 year old, and by the time you actually get the system into your service, you are buying a system of an outdated technology. So you are falling behind the race. So your procurement cycles have to be faster. I have always emphasized this in any of these programs I go, or any of these talks I do. It is, you have to be on the mission mode. You have to, your projects have to be on a mission mode project. You just can't be procrastinating and thinking. And my last point is that whatever specifications you give, they must be realistic. एक्चुअली हम लोग क्या करते हैं, इंटरनेट पे चले जाते हैं एंड वी सी के ओके ये चीजें हो रही हैं, एंड वी डोंट सी दैट आर दीज स्पेसिफिकेशंस फर्स्टली realistic, will be able to get this equipment with this kind of specifications in that time frame of 2 to 3 years. And a problem is that because we are wanting the best, we are looking at the best specifications without realizing that how difficult it will be to get those specifications in that time frame we want it to happen. Today we have emergency procurement. ये आपने वाइस चीफ को पावर दे दिया कि ओके, you 50,000 crores you can buy worth of equipment within 1 year. You know why it has been given? Because Sindoor 2.0 can happen anytime. You don't have time. You can't wait for 7 years for a new equipment. You have to buy off the shelf. So now we are looking at procurement cycles of 8 to 12 months, because that is emergency. Why come to an emergency if you would have established your good uh, procedures and practices and processes? You won't be looking at emergency procurement, because always remember one thing: whenever you go for emergency procurements, your purchasing cost goes up almost twice. Because the other guy also knows uh, uh, you are in a hurry, and you are in a dire your necessity. So he will also hike his prices. A simple rule of demand and supply. So that is my point.
And sir, we are talking about negotiations here. So, uh, when somebody has a dire need, the negotiation capabilities go down, and we
Obviously.
and when we do not, we are. I think we are out of our uh, tendencies. We are putting ourselves in a position that we are in a weaker negotiation zone. Somebody else can arm twist us. We have put ourselves in some ways in that position. And one more example recently I can see is we are not able to build our own aircraft engines. That is not being discussed as much as the H1B visa rate hikes.
Yes.
So we cannot go to US, we cannot swim across and escape to US. That is a more point of discussion for us, but not like self-reliance. And if self-reliance is not built into the system, or strategic autonomy will also be compromised. So, what message will you have to share in terms of geopolitical angle, in terms of nurturing the youth of India? That what are the aspects that we have to take care of in terms of maintaining absolute strategic autonomy?
You see, first message is always, we tend to only gloss over our artificial professes, and we don't look inwards. So I would give a message to the youth first of all: please don't get carried away by what the social media is telling you. Please don't get inflamed in your passions over religion and other issues. There are much larger issues which the country needs to focus today. And the first issue is very important, is skill development. Because uh, you may join the forces, you may wear a uniform, you may be called a soldier, but let me tell you, in my context, I actually view every youth of our nation as our soldier, a man on a mission. And the mission is to develop the skills, because whatever skills you are going to develop are going to help your nation become stronger. So, my first message is you build up your skills. Second is that your integrity and your loyalty must remain with your nation, because today we have so many internal forces within our own country who are trying to weaken us. Please identify those elements and expose them, because unfortunately हमारे नेबरहुड में कुछ हो रहा होता है, and we just look the other way. So this is a very great responsibility to each of you who are part of this wonderful nation called Bharat, that you have to identify those people who are weakening the country and expose them, bring it to the notice of the security agencies, because a small spark can become a fire. A problem which is nipped in the bud can be prevented. Prevention is better than cure, as we say it. So that is my second message to the youth. And my third is message is that we have 24 hours in a day. Please tie try to spend your time in a very constructive manner. You see, a time is like a bank account. If you withdraw your money from your bank account, that much of your bank account is reduced. Similarly, and that will not come back. Similarly, time lost is time wasted. Extremely important. You utilize your time in the most purposeful manner. Make a schedule every day and see how many hours of constructive work you can put in for the country. And my last point is uh, have a collaborative mindset. Try to work in teams, try to complement each other, try to be a part of either industry, government, academia, whatever field you are in. Without teamwork, you will not be able to achieve anything. So I think teamwork is the most important aspect. So these are three, four things I feel are very relevant. Your skill building, living in a civil society, and identifying those people who are inimical to the nation, your loyalty and your integrity, and most important, collaboration and working in teams. I think if we can focus on these three, four areas, we would have achieved a lot.
So I think we have passed the timeline given by you, but we have only crossed half of the questions. So the half is pending. So should we continue or should we like?
We, we can have a part, we can have a part two later on.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Try to culminate this now. Yeah.
And sir, I have a I have a question on this front also, which is I'll ask you after this podcast. But thank you so much for your time. I think we can have 10 such podcasts if you have that time. Thank you so much once again, sir.
You are always a pleasure, and thanks for inviting me. And wish you all the very best, and to all your viewers, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.
Hope you enjoyed this video. If this video added value to you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with a friend who may find this helpful. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.